All right, guys. Fuller coming to you with another video. I hope all is well. So I want to talk some boxing right now, and shout outs to Dante's Boxing Nation for like actually playing the interview that he actually. I don't know if he sent someone there to get the interview, but shout outs to him for actually getting the interview with what I've been knowing for such a long time. Like I've been knowing this, and of course the fanboys and stuff like that who can't see past nationality are going to of course say that you know oh, you're a racist, oh, you're race baiting, oh, you're this, that, and the other, and it's just a given fact. Okay, history proves this. And I mean, the fact is that if you look at history and if you even look at what's going on in boxing right now, it just proves the point. And I'm going to talk about it because it gets on my nerves that you got these goofy people who come online, and I'm not going to name them. They know who they are. And the sad thing is, some of them are even black too, because they want subscribers so badly that they're willing to what you call it. I want to say they're willing to booty guard these fighters that we know ain't got nothing on other fighters. Now, the interview was in regards to the interview was in regards to the upcoming fight with Shakur Stevenson and Oscar Valdez, right? And I'm just gonna break everything down, the comments that were said, and I'm just gonna give a couple of examples about basically what has happened and what has transpired, you know. Now, so, Eddy Reynoso was asked about that fight, and he basically said that, Shakur Stevenson has that Mayweather lifestyle. He also alluded to the fact that, black fighters are a handful to deal with, and they're very difficult. It's a very difficult style. So, in essence, that translation means that he doesn't know how to train to beat that style. Because if you look at it, Floyd Mayweather proved that. Erislandy Lara proved that. And I don't care what anybody says, Erislandy Lara won that fight. Okay? He boxed circles around Canelo. Everybody knows that. Okay? He won the fight. As a matter of fact, I'm rewatching the fight right now since they got rid of the Floyd Mayweather fight, and that's the only one to watch is the Erislandy Lara fight. But Erislandy Lara won that fight. And the bottom line is this. The pattern is continuing on. Okay? It's just continuing. And let's look at the pattern with let's first take Canelo. We're gonna take a couple of fighters, and then we're gonna break down things, and then we're gonna just give an overall summary. We're gonna come back and wrap it all up. Okay. Now you look at Canelo, right? After that Floyd Mayweather fight, he fought a simple ass Angulo. Okay, a come forward fighter who didn't really do nothing. Okay. Come forward guy who Erislandy Lara broke his orbital bone. You know what I mean? Now, you look at that, and then you look at the fact that Erislandy Lara had to get in the ring and actually challenge or get in interrupted press conference and challenge Canelo. And if you even look at the Erislandy Lara and Canelo All Access, you will hear Oscar De La Hoya many times say that, oh, this is a dangerous fight. I don't want him to take this fight. You know what I mean? You would see it so many times in that whole thing if you watch both of those episodes. Now, granted, the messed up thing about the whole situation was that that Erislandy Lar was a Golden Boy fighter. He wasn't an Al Heyman fighter, because I'm pretty sure if he was an Al Heyman fighter, that fight wouldn't have even transpired. You know what I mean? But anyhow, Oscar De La Hoya didn't even visit. He didn't even visit Erislandy Lar's training camp. He was just about Canelo, watching soccer with Canelo, and everything like that. You know, he didn't even care about Erislandy Lar. And it must be said that Mexicans dislike Cubans anyway, in the world of boxing anyway, and in real life too. You know, I know a lot of Cubans who have told me, like, yeah, you know, Mexicans don't really like Cubans, and you know, I have to agree. I mean, for the most part, Mexicans don't like any other Hispanic but Mexicans. You know, I'm just gonna keep it a buck. But anyhow, that's neither here nor there. That's for another time. So example number 2 I'm about to play, because you know how it is. You know how it is. I'm gonna play and remind people of certain things. You know. Let me go ahead and play it real quick. Let's see. Okay, let me see. Find the video real quick. Okay, here we go. Just give the video a little bit time to load.
Canelo, you a bitch. I'm putting it out there. No, I don't like to disrespect men that step into the ring, but damn, you fighting Kirtland that hasn't been in the ring since Glenn Tapia. When you have an opportunity to fight Demetrius Andrade for the WBO, damn, I thought in the sport of boxing, people want to be a champion, to have that title. I understand you got De La Hoya, you got the promotion team, you got the money.
Now, granted, you know, Canelo fans will deny this, but Canelo was actually Demetrius Andrade's mandatory at 154. Okay, and you know, Canelo didn't fancy fighting him. He fancied fighting James Kirkland, who actually who just got out of I want to say he just got out of some legal trouble. I think he was in jail or something like that. And you know, what Canelo fans will say is that, oh, he fought Daniel Jacobs, oh, he fought James Kirkland. Number one, I'm gonna start with Daniel Jacobs. Daniel Jacobs did not look good in his fight against Sulecki, nor did he look good in his fight against Derevyanchenko. That's why Canelo picked him. Okay. Number 2, James Kirkland is very much like an Angulo type fighter. Come forward, limited boxing ability, willing to block shots with his head. Okay. But Demetrius Andrade is none of that. Okay. Now let's go to one, and here's the thing too about Demetrius Andrade. Demetrius Andrade tried to fight other Mexican fighters. He actually tried to fight some of Canelo's family members, because I think Canelo has a couple of brothers who box. Canelo's brothers didn't want that work, and you know, there was one boxer that they offered. He used to box more than brawl. I think his name was Carlos Molina. Carlos Molina said no to Demetrius Andrade as well. You know, so that just goes to show you what time it is. Now, let's see. Let's see. I want to see something else. I just want to see one more thing. And the sad thing is, what Canelo fans will do is they'll say Demetrius Andrade ducked his mandatory at 160. Zanabek, a guy who, you know, we know that Demetrius Andrade would not get any credit for beating. You know, that's the sad thing. But let's read an article. Let's read an article that was written by, I think it was written by Boxing Like 24/7 or something. Let's see what they had to say. Yeah, this is going to be maybe a long video because you know, I really have had enough of these Mexican fans. I really have, because it would be better for them to be honest instead of being delusional, but they decide to be delusional. So I'm going to fight fire with fire. But let's get into it. Okay, let me find the article real quick and read from it. Okay. And the sad thing about it is, the sad thing about Canelo is that, you know, Demetrius Andrade was supposed to fight Billy Joe, but Canelo just like stole that fight away from him. You know what I mean? And so like Canelo says like, you fight nobody, but you know, it's like it's not Demetrius Andrade's fault that Billy Joe popped dirty for PEDs. It's not his fault. But let's go ahead and look. So it says Saul Canelo keeps running away from Demetrius Andrade. It's real. So one fan asked, "Hey Canelo, why have you continually refused to fight Demetrius Andrade? Never at 154, 160, and he holds the belt. You called him boring, but you smashed Billy Joe Saunders, who has a similar style." Canelo responded, "Nah, he's a horrible fighter, and I do not want to fight with him. He hasn't fought anybody." But really what he said, I remember that interview, if I can remember. You can hear, I'm going to pull that up too, with Canelo's father's ass. And you know, I'm an immigrant myself, but like, man, I'll roast Canelo as much as possible. This fool's English is worse than his boxing, you know. Let me see. And the sad thing is about this whole situation is you have black channels who like support Canelo and stuff like that, support Lomachenko and his ducking and things like that, just because they want to win a fan base. I can give a shit about a fan base. I stand for what's what. You know, I push a hard line that I'll die behind. Well, let's see. I remember that question. Let's hear Canelo's father's English, and then I'll get back to the article. Get back to the article.
He fought with anybody.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, there it is. Hold on, let me pull it up again. Pull it up.
Saunders and his style is similar.
No, he's a horrible fighter. I never want to fight with him. He fought with anybody. So.
Yeah, so you hear him say he fought with anybody. You know, whatever the hell that means. Damn fob. But anyhow, anyhow, this article this guy wrote, in my opinion, Canelo is one of the biggest disappointments in boxing history. It is somewhat shameful how he can get away with ducking fighters who his majesty considers horrible. Ironically, Avni Yildirim, Liam Smith, Caleb Plant, Billy Joe Saunders, Alfredo Angulo, Rocky Fielding, James Kirkland, etc. Must have been on a completely level than Andrade. If Andrade is horrible, the ones mentioned above are horrible at the cue. We all know deep inside that Kirkland was really Sugar Ray Robinson in a Halloween costume, and Ezra Charles disguised himself as Avni Yildirim. Ironically, Andrade held the WBO, WBA titles in 154 and the WBO in 160, which is more belts than any of the individual achievements of the boxers mentioned above. In fact, Canelo was only one belt away to become undisputed in middleweight if he had only faced WBO champion Andrade. Likewise, he never sought the WBO in 154 to avoid Andrade until it was vacated. The pride of Jalisco would have made history for Mexico by becoming the first Mexican to conquer the middleweight division. Yet he decided it was best for his controversial legacy to fight against the shell of Sergey Kovalev, a fight where he gave Grandpa a rehydration clause accompanied by a really weird knockout that looked like a Hollywood 80 scripted movie with Steven Seagal. Andrade has been ducked by Gennady Golovkin, Sergey Derevyanchenko, Erislandy Lara, Jaime Munguia, Jamal Charlo, and His Majesty, the pride of Jalisco. The only time Andrade missed his opportunity was against Jamel Charlo 8 years ago during a bad move where he decided to change promotions from Star Boxing to Rock Nation as they offer more money. A move that resulted in not fighting Jamel, accompanied by a bad blood between the two. Either way, shortly after he sought Jamel and Jamal the day and night for 8 years to fight them, while the twins kept playing the 2014 card to avoid fighting against him. In fact, I am going to go even further. Andrade is the most avoided fighter in the past 70 years, since the exception of the Black Murderers Row. Now, I will add Devin Haney and Joran Ennis to that list, and David Morrell to that list as well. Rashidi Ellis is in that list as well, too. I know of no fighter who has been more ducked in the past 70 years. I've never seen a fighter pass through such torture trying to find someone willing to square inside the ring with him. Canelo was supposed to be a superstar who is not afraid of taking challenges. And like he said multiple times, nos tenemos que dejar de mamandas, which means I am not afraid, let's fight. But he says one thing inside the ring to impress his casual audience, which is mostly Mexican nationalists who have racist tendencies. I added that part. Who's unaware of the rehydration clauses he imposes in many of his fights. Outside of ducking undefeated American boxers, always looking for English crumpets and old soldiers to cement his questionable legacy. Let me repeat that again. Canelo ducks undefeated American boxers. Let me repeat it more clearly, as in what Terence Crawford said. Canelo ducks undefeated Black American boxers, and Canelo ducks undefeated African boxers who were brought up in America, since Demetrius Andrade is of Cape Verdean descent. Since the last one gave him a whooping, he mistakenly thought he was on his way out like Sugar Shane Mosley. He also never gave Erislandy Lara a second fight. Ever wonder why? Yeah, because he boxed circles around him. In second fight, Erislandy Lara would probably be more aggressive. Andre will eventually have to move up to fight at super middleweight, as he is avoided at middleweight. Here is a prediction that will happen in the near future. You will see he will have to fight David Benavidez or David Morrell Jr., two fighters that, when mentioned, Eddy Reynoso and Canelo simply ignore. And I'm going to go into that too. I'm going to segue into that just a little bit. David Benavidez doesn't want no parts of David Morrell, and David Morrell, by all merits, he's a mulatto fighter. You know, you look at his mother. I haven't seen his father. You can tell that his mother is clearly black. So Canelo wants no parts of him at all. David Benavidez doesn't even want parts of David Morrell. If you listen to one of my previous videos, you'll hear actually his trainer, one guy from Team Benavidez, because I'm actually out in the gym out here where I'm at since I'm out of town. I'm actually training out in this gym for a little while. You'll actually hear him say that he'll be ready in like 4 years or so to fight David Benavidez. And no disrespect to David Benavidez, but David Benavidez is very much a come forward fighter who actually leaves himself open a lot. So now let's get into it. Canelo will be licking his chops after the extraordinary performance of Edgar Berlanga, who showed he is not a horrible fighter like Andre. That's sarcasm. But Berlanga is another boxer who avoided Morrell Jr., Benavidez, and Steven Nelson. Berlanga reminds me of Caleb Plant, who has done an extraordinary job of avoiding Benavidez. Caleb Plant also ducked David Morrell too, by the way, because at one time I just found out David Morrell was Caleb Plant's mandatory and he didn't want to fight him. So yeah, you know, I give Caleb Plant the respect on the boxing ability and stuff like that, but he's ducked as well. So Canelo would fight Berlanga, but I don't think Canelo will fight Jamal Charlo, and he'll make Errol Spence move up at catchweight. If Andre lost against Benavidez, Canelo will say, "Oh, he wasn't anything special." If Andre won against Benavidez, which he will, Canelo will say, "Oh, he was never on my level." Canelo strategically isolates boxers like Andre to make them eventually fight each other, other avoided fighters from different divisions like Jamal, Benavidez, or Morrell. Jamal is now playing the chicken game with Andre and Benavidez. The way boxers like Canelo, Jamal Charlo, or Gennady Golovkin can rest assured they won't transfer their glutinous power and fame to an obscure opponent that we knew they ducked. And I will end this way. Canelo offered Jason Quigley a fight September 12, 2020. Anything else to say? So let's move on from Canelo. We said enough already. Let's go to Ryan Garcia. How about that? So Ryan Garcia, who used to be with Eddy Reynoso, he had the chance to fight Devin Haney on many occasions. The first occasion was when, before the Luke Campbell fight was made, Devin Haney was going to offer him a title shot, right? Ryan Garcia opted to fight against Luke Campbell instead. And also, Ryan Garcia decided that it would be more befitting for him to fight Luke Campbell over Gervonta Tank Davis, who he FaceTimed, and then Ryan Garcia compared himself to Ali and this, that, and the other, and he started dancing with his non-rhythm having ass. And so we know that to be the case as well. And then after the victory of Luke Campbell, Ryan Garcia just opted out to fight. I think he was either gonna fight Javier Fortuna or he was gonna fight um uh I think it was I think it was Jojo Diaz, if I'm not mistaken. But he decided that he wasn't going to fight anybody, and he decided he was going to cap and say he has mental health. Fast forward, he injures himself. Now he's fighting this unknown Black Panther character. I don't even know his name. I think it's like M'Baku or something like that. But anyhow, he's fighting him. And you know, the thing is that, again, Devin Haney would stop Ryan Garcia. That's the bottom line. Devin Haney has more than Ryan Garcia will ever have in boxing. The only chance that Ryan Garcia will have in winning against Devin Haney would be a lucky shot. Even in the fight against Jojo Diaz, I mean, maybe you give Jojo Diaz 3 rounds. Okay? At most. So, yeah. Everybody knows this, bro. Everybody knows the truth of these things, man. Everybody knows this, man. For real. But let's go to welterweight, okay? And then I'm gonna just wrap it up. Now, Rashidi Ellis even said, I've been wanting to fight Virgil Ortiz, you know, for a while. I've been wanting to hand him an ass whooping. You would think that would be an easy fight to make due to the simple fact that that they're both on the same promoter and they both are in the same weight class. Now, granted, I don't know if Rashidi Ellis makes 147 anymore, because since he hasn't had any fights, he's big, bro. Because he hasn't, you know, Golden Boy ain't keeping him active. But why didn't Golden Boy make that fight? Rashidi Ellis versus Virgil Ortiz. Why didn't they make that fight? Why? And then we look at the whole Virgil Ortiz, Jaron Ennis build up and things like that. And you have the overwhelming group of people saying that, like, Jaron Ennis will watch Virgil Ortiz, which he would. I mean, what can Virgil Ortiz do better than Jaron Ennis? Just name one thing he can do better than Jaron Ennis, except for block shots with his head. And the thing is that when it comes to these Mexican fighters, and I'm gonna wrap it up. When it comes to these Mexican fighters, they fight a certain type of black fighter. They fight a black fighter who smothers his work. For example, Virgil Ortiz fought Maurice Hooker, who was known as being a rangy fighter, but smothers his work, right? Mikey Garcia fought Robert Easter. Now, Mikey Garcia decided he was going to fight Earl Spence because he thought Earl Spence was going to just come in and that he was going to counterpunch him and be able to catch him. That's what he saw. He saw the one lucky shot. But instead, Earl Spence used footwork and just boxing ability and an educated jab to beat up Mikey Garcia for 12 rounds. While Mikey Garcia didn't even win a round in that fight. So I'm going to just leave it at this. There's a reason why Mexican fans, for the most part, dislike black fighters. Dislike black fighters from different areas of the world, including Cuban fighters. And that reason being is they possess tools in the shed that they hardly see from their fighters. And Eddy Reynoso clarified that by saying that it's a complicated style. So you can come on this page, you can rant all you want. But if one trainer is actually saying that, then where are we at with it? Okay? People say that, and I'll say it again, people had the audacity to say that Jaron Ennis is a boring fighter. People had the audacity to say Demetrius Andrade is a boring and sloppy fighter. No, they're just black fighters. That's what that translates to. And no fighter, I don't know. You can't name a Mexican fighter who can do what Devin Haney, who can do what Demetrius Andrade, who can do what Jaron Ennis, who can do what David Morrell can do. Name me one. Name me one. Just present one. But anyhow, man, I just had to get this rant off, man. I ran it for like damn near going on 35 minutes, man. But I had to say something, bro, because it's the truth. The bottom line is Mexican fans dislike black fighters, not only because they're black, but because they know that their guys can't beat them. And I'm talking about the certain type of black fighter who has the attributes of a Sugar Ray Leonard, the attributes of Floyd Mayweather, the attributes of an Erislandy Lara, the attributes of a the attributes of like a Wilfred Benitez, the attributes of a Kid Chocolate, the original Kid Chocolate, by the way. The attributes of a Kid Gallahan, who even Sugar Ray Robinson respected for his boxing ability. And it is what it is, man. It is what it is. And I said it on the previous video, although like I like Dave Benavidez's willingness to get in there with anybody, you know, I respect him for that. Okay, that's very commendable for him to do that, right? That he wants to fight with anybody, but at the end of the day, he's basic too. Sorry to say, he's basic as well. You know, but I feel that he's humble. He's dying to be like in the mix, which I can commend. At the end of the day, when it comes to just, if we're just talking about boxing ability alone, man, he's basic, bro. Period. But anyhow, man, leave your thoughts and leave your comments. You know, Eddy Reynoso said what he said. The only reason why, and I'll say this before, as I said it before, and I'll say it again, the only reason why Oscar Valdez is fighting Shakur Stevenson is because of Bob Arum's, the backlash that Terence Crawford did on Bob Arum. That's the only reason why. Other than that, there would be no reason why that fight would happen. Because Eddy Reynoso would not even call for that fight. You have to understand, Eddy Reynoso chooses Canelo's opponents as well, because he can only train for those. So that's why I don't get why Frank Sanchez is even staying with Eddy Reynoso. When you see the success of fighters with Ismael Salas, you know, who is a Cuban patriot as well. You see Robeisy Ramirez doing well. You see that guy who just won against Chris Colbert. You know, the Dominican guy. Just won against Chris Colbert. You know? Canelo fans have something, and I'm going to end on this note. Canelo fans, and for a majority of, because I'm reading this from a book, Canelo fans and the majority of Mexican nationalistic racist fans have something called epistemic closure. Yeah, epistemic closure. And what that means is it's just that they're only open to what the mainstream media says about Canelo, what the mainstream media says about like their fighters, and also how they feel about their fighters based on nationalism and not based on the reality. But anyhow, man, that's all I got for now. Leave your thoughts and leave your comments. We were signing out on Ja Rama.